Welcome to Virtual Lunch. It's been a long time. It's been almost 2 months since we've been together here in Virtual Lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. So welcome to 2022. And we have a great guest coming up today. I think you're really going to be fascinated and intrigued by our guest today. But I want to go through, just as always, I want to share some news and updates. Go ahead and tell us who you are and where you're joining in from in the comments, and we'll add those in. As always, my husband Alan is in the background. He's going to be putting those comments or putting the links and things in for us and sharing as we go along. So, all right. So first up, it's January. We're looking forward to a new year and what's ahead. And I actually heard a comment the other day I thought was really good, that in a car, the windshield is far bigger than the rearview mirror. And so we need to take that same kind of perspective on life. So looking forward, a couple of links on that. We've got, first of all, hearing it from a fifth grader perspective. This is really clever. Fifth graders imagining the future. And so they actually, they interviewed fifth graders in a bunch of different cities around the country and got their perspective. And of course, it was things like, this was 20 years from now. What did they envision? So it was like hover cars and trips to Saturn and Mercury and things like that. But they also had some really interesting insights, like talking about that teachers would be broadcast as holograms so they could present from anywhere. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So you might want to go check that out. I see Bruce is here from Creative Displays in New York. Welcome, Bruce. Good to have you here. And then following along on the future, looking forward theme, our friend Mel at Classic Exhibits shared this link with me last week. I checked it out. The Future 100 report. This is, and it's a massive, massive list. Here is the link for that one from Wonderman Thompson. But they've got 100 things that they list in all different categories, from travel to food to retail, all different things. But just a few highlights on that. 3D audio was really interesting. Augmented ads, retro retail. So, kind of thinking about that as you're designing your exhibits, maybe, kind of using a retro theme if it's trendy, again, depending on what you're trying to do. And then the concept of rewilding the office, which is, using biophilia, having like the living walls and things like that. So again, how can you incorporate some of those kinds of things into your exhibits? Al is here from Genesis. Good to have you here, Al. Always nice to have you back with us. And I see Amanda's here. She's LinkedIn user, but I'm glad you went ahead and told us who you were. She's a member engagement specialist currently in Pennsylvania. So Amanda, always good to have you with us as well. All right. So next up, we have, this one was really fun. I stumbled across this just a couple of days ago. It's an Indian taxi driver, or like a pedicab driver. And I got a couple of links for this. There's an article and then there's also a video, but he actually has so many things to teach us about customer service and, taking care of your people. He's done a lot of stuff. He's got like free Wi-Fi in his cab. He has magazines and newspapers for his customers to read, all these kinds of things, but it's really fascinating. Oh, also, I'll point out, those of you who are joining us, if anybody's from YouTube, the links are already in the description in YouTube, so you can go there to check it out. And there is the link for the actual YouTube video to watch. But anyway, he's become so popular and so well known, and he's got such avid fans and customer loyalty. He's even given TEDx talks now. So anyway, so it's a really cool story to just see how innovative this guy has been and some of the lessons that we can learn from him. All right, so next up is digital business cards. Now, this is interesting because I hadn't heard of digital business cards before. I don't know if, maybe you have. I thought I was pretty up on, all the latest stuff, but this is something, I guess, it's not totally new, but it's kind of an interesting concept. So anyway, inside this article, there are several links to different companies, different platforms, apps that you can create these digital business cards. So I haven't had a chance yet because I just discovered this over the weekend. But I'm definitely going to go check that out and see what digital business cards are all about. Amanda, you're a networking specialist. I bet you, if you haven't seen digital business cards, I bet you're going to go investigate it too. Bruce, you're welcome. Glad you're here and glad you're getting benefit from this. All right, so next up, we have an article that was actually written by our friend Marco from Italy. So I don't know, Marco, if you're here, say hi in the comments so we know you're here. But this was an article that he wrote about digital communication being like a football, or for those of us in America, soccer. Being like a soccer game. And so he takes the different components of your digital marketing strategy and compares it to the different players on the field. So I thought that was a really clever comparison. So there is the link for that article from Marco. And then I want to also give you guys a teaser of an event that's coming up in February. On February 10th, we have the NTSA, the National Trade Show Alliance, is putting on a virtual conference. It's called Standing Strong. So it's going to be a virtual conference and a sponsor showcase. And so I will actually be doing a presentation. I'm teaming up with Jim Cermak from Trade Show U, and we're going to do a presentation about myths and opportunities of virtual and hybrid. So you'll want to be sure and join in. But there's the link to go check out about the NTSA conference coming up. That page will give you some information and also a link so that you can get registered so you can join us on February 10th. And like I said, it's virtual, so you can just join from wherever you are and learn a lot about the trade show industry and where we're at and where we are going forward. If you haven't checked out NTSA, it's a new association that's been put together for people in the industry. I know Al from Genesis has been very active in this, and some of our other regulars here on Virtual Lunch. So definitely go check that out. And then I also want to give you a little bit of an update that I think I may have mentioned this at our last virtual lunch way back last fall, but this year is the 20th anniversary of my book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. And so this is the original. I'm currently working on an updated version. Don't have the new cover yet, so I can't share that, but I'm going to do an updated version. So if you have an example that you've done at a show where you've done a really creative exhibit that's been really successful, or maybe a clever pre-show promotion or some type of attraction that you've used in your booth that worked really well, or something that you do with your staff, how you train your staff or how you work with them or incentivize them, any of those things. I'm looking for examples. So, reach out to me and let me know what you've done, and if I use your example in the book, you get an autographed copy when it comes out. So just let me know that. So I'm very excited about working on that. So let me take a peek here and see if we've got any other questions or comments as we go along. All right, so I think that is it for announcements. Go ahead and keep, typing in the chat, introduce yourselves, or, just share as we go on. If you've got questions for our guest speaker today, go ahead and please do that as well. So I'm going to introduce her and bring her up on screen now. Sam Horn is the CEO of the Intrigue Agency, where she helps people design and deliver TED Talks, keynotes, funding pitches, and one-of-a-kind brands. She's the author of 9 books, including Tung Fu, Pop, What's Holding You Back, Someday is Not a Day of the Week, which is one of Alan's favorites, and the Washington Post bestseller, Got Your Attention? Her work has been featured in dozens of media outlets, including the New York Times, Forbes, Inc., Harvard Business Review, NPR, and virtually every major TV news outlet. Her client list reads like a who's who of major international companies, but here are just a few highlights. She was brought in by TED Fellows, South by Southwest, Inc. 500, and Richard Branson's Virgin United New Now leaders to teach how to quickly and clearly communicate the value of their projects. LinkedIn hired Sam to produce a series on communication that has been used by Amazon, Walmart, and Accenture. NASA hired Sam to media train their senior scientists and climate change specialists. So we are very privileged to have Sam Horn with us today here in Virtual Lunch. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much, Marlis. I'm really looking forward to sharing some real life ideas all of your listeners and viewers can put into practice immediately.
Yes. And I mean, your ideas are so practical. Pop is one of my favorite books. I have this one. I use it all the time. In fact, and I haven't told you this yet, Sam, I actually typed up because I use the ideas in Pop to create, to generate titles. So I actually created my own little worksheet that I use.
Yeah, I love it when a plan comes together and gets carried out.
So Sam, let's start out. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about, but let's start by talking about, just the idea of making your message pop. The book Pop, you've got so many different ideas in there. What are some of the strategies that exhibitors or show organizers could use to really make their message pop? I know you've got lots of them, so give us a couple of ideas.
Wonderful. In fact, Marlis, I think many people know that I helped start and run the Maui Writers Conference, which Writers Digest said was the best writers conference in the world. And all of our authors, they only agreed on one thing, and that's ink it when you think it. So I hope you have paper, because I'm going to share 4 of my best practices you can use immediately to make your trade show booth pop, to make your website pop, to make a marketing campaign or an ad or a brochure pop. So, and it's based on this premise. So on your notes, please put a vertical line down the center. People ask how my brain works, and I juxtapose everything. I think it is the quickest way to make a complex idea crystal clear. So our session today is based on this premise from George Washington Carver, who said, when you can do a common thing in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. So please put a vertical line down the center of your notes, put common over on the left, and put uncommon over on the right. And if we want to pop out in a very crowded industry, we're going to focus on 3 very specific ways that we can create common titles, uncommon taglines, uncommon marketing messages that break out instead of blend in, because blending in is for Cuisinart. So ready for the first idea, Marlis?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. So over on the left, please put forgettable. And over on the right, please put memorable. Because Gary Marshall, who directed the movie Pretty Woman, came to Maui Writers Conference. He said something so profound, I remember it as if he said it this morning. He said Hollywood directors can predict when their movies will make money based on one thing. Do people walk out of the theater repeating something they heard word for word? Because see, if they're saying, make my day, show me the money, I'll be back. When someone says, seen any good movies recently, they're talking about your movie and in a way that motivates people to want to go to it. They become brand ambassadors. So here's the question. Look at your website, look at your marketing material, look at the signage on your trade show booth. Is there anything that people can repeat word for word after seeing it once, after hearing it once? Because if not, we're out of sight, out of mind. We don't want to be out of sight, out of mind. We want to be top of mind. So here are 3 quick techniques you can do to be memorable instead of forgettable, and repeatable and retweetable, so people hear or see something and repeat it and become a brand ambassador for what you care about. So please write down AIR. A stands for alliterative. Alliteration is when words start with the same sound. It makes us instantly eloquent. It makes our language lyrical. So now listen to these words: bed, toilet, and shower, Dunkin' croissants, best purchase, dirt, vacuum. Kind of clunky, right? Take those same words and make them alliterative: bed, bath, and beyond, best, buy, dirt, devil, Rolls Royce. Are you using alliteration in your languaging? And now, if you're thinking, come on, Sam, this is just petty wordplay. No, it's word profits. And I'll
Mm,
give you an example. Marlis, do you drink coffee or tea by any chance?
I'm a tea drinker.
You're a tea drinker. All right. Have you ever put those cardboard insulating sleeves around a hot cup of tea so you
Yeah.
didn't burn your fingers?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to build a business around an unpronounceable name. It's hard to build a business around an unpronounceable name. If we can't repeat it, we didn't get it. And cardboard insulating sleeves is complex and people forget it.
Yeah.
Jay Sorensen saw a business opportunity, so he didn't call those cardboard insulating sleeves, which is a commodity. He called them Java jackets. Boom.
Mm.
He cornered the market. He says people who wanted to do business with his competitor contact him because they can't remember the name of the competitor. So, are you
Well,
using alliteration? Go ahead, Marlis. You were going to say
well,
something.
I was going to say exactly because it becomes the name that everybody refers to. Now everybody calls all of them Java jackets.
That's exactly right. And now you own the market, right? Because you own the
Right.
name. And it's because you crafted a name that is alliterative that can be repeated after hearing it once. So now there's a couple more keys to this. Want to hear them?
Okay.
Okay, next is I. I is for iambic meter. When you put it in a beat, you make it easy to repeat. When you put it in a beat, you make it easy to repeat. I can't believe I ate the.
Whole thing.
Okay, takes a licking and keeps on.
Ticking.
What happens in Vegas?
Stays in Vegas.
Okay, now Marlis, do you know those first two marketing slogans are 50 years old? And yet they were still on the tip of our tongue, on the top of our mind, because they were in a rhythm that made it easy to repeat. And
Hmm.
when it's easy to repeat, we repeat it and then it goes viral and then it gets spread. The Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce, once again, this is not word play, it's word profits, said that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas has generated more than $1 billion of revenue for that city because of that slogan.
I believe it.
Okay, now you ready for the third one?
Oh, definitely. Go ahead.
Put down R. R is for rhyme, which is remembered over time, which makes it sublime. So now, once again, let me give you an example to show the power of this because it's not just semantics, it actually can save lives. US government was concerned years ago about the number of injuries and fatalities in car accidents, so they mounted a multi-million-dollar
Mm.
public service campaign called Buckle Up for Safety. Punky. Nothing changed
No.
because, as Duke Ellington said, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. So they went back to the drawing board, and this time they came up with
Click it or ticket.
boom, click it or ticket. Now, here's the thing compliance went up, injuries and fatalities went down. They saved lives by investing themselves in crafting a slogan that resonated with people and motivated them to change behavior. So, when it comes to your trade show booth, when it comes to your exhibit, when it comes to your website or marketing material, once again, this is not word play. If people can't repeat it, they didn't get it, which means you didn't get it. How can you use this airtight soundbite process to create hook, line, and thinkers that keep you top of mind instead of out of sight, out of mind?
Well, exactly, because if you think about it, I mean, it's like, centuries later, we're still reading Shakespeare with his iambic pentameter and Dr. Seuss is still a hugely, popular children's series, and we can all probably recite pages from Dr. Seuss books because again, like you said, it's the way the words are put together, the way that they flow. And, being an English major, I always try to look at, what is the better choice of words? Well, and maybe you noticed what we titled this session, make your marketing message pop. So I use that alliteration of all the M's. So, I have learned a few things from you over the years.
Wonderful.
Well, I know you also talk about making the message visual as well. Could you tell us a little bit more about how to do that?
You bet. It's, I believe, so over on the left, let's see, put vague. Over on the right, visual verbiage. Vague visual verbiage. So in fact, why, so two quick stories. Number one is that the head of the movie studio that was making the movie Jaws, they came back with a movie poster and it just had the word Jaws on it. And he said, people are going to think this is about a dentist. he said, ready? He said, show me the fish.
Mm-hmm.
So see, they went back and they came up with that iconic image of, a woman just enjoying swimming in the ocean, not knowing that there was a shark underneath her. And you see how that image evoked like the terror or the mystery or the dun 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 part of it. And that image became the image they used for the movie and for the book. And it's one of the reasons, your word, Marlis, it's become an evergreen, is because when we make our verbiage visual, that's when people see what we're saying. That's when they picture our point. And when we're uncertain about something, and then all of a sudden the puzzle pieces fall into place and it becomes crystal clear. Do you know what people say? Oh, I see now.
Yeah.
So another thing, like that's why I use the picture of a fish on my book, Got Your Attention, because it's based on an observation from Nancy F. Cohen from Harvard, who found that, yes,
Mm-hmm.
goldfish have longer attention spans than we do. Goldfish, 9 seconds. Human beings, 8 seconds. So how can I make my message visual? By showing a goldfish that applies to attention spans. Now, two other quick examples, Marlis. Why is it that the put your oxygen mask on first meme is so memorable? Because they turned an idea into an image, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just say put yourself first. No, they said, if you're on an airplane, why do they say, oh, all of a sudden the idea lands because it is anchored in the real world with a visual where we can see it. When Jim Collins said, get the right people on the bus, he didn't just say, pick diverse team members, right? No, he used the visual of the bus. And now all of a sudden, a vague idea becomes crystal clear because we can see it and picture it, not just hear it.
Well, and that was kind of my premise when I was writing my book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. I took the whole analogy of building a house and used that as the framework for the book because I wanted to make it relatable so people could understand. I mean, even if you haven't built your own house, you still get the idea that you do the foundation first and then you put up the walls and then you decorate the inside. And, so finding those analogies, I think that's so important. And I've seen that done so many times so well on the trade show floor where somebody takes an analogy and really brings their sometimes very abstract product to life because they've used an analogy or a metaphor. But then sometimes there's ones that, they take an analogy that doesn't even tie in. And, I can remember one show I went to and it was a construction show and they had this giant spinning brain and they were all dressed in lab coats and everybody kept talking about it. It's like, what's with the brain? What's with the giant brain? So it's got to tie back in. I think that's the key.
See, Marlis, you're so right. It's like there's this phrase, I never met a metaphor I didn't like. Well, we both met metaphors we didn't like because they didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we think of our target audience. Will this make sense to them? Will this resonate with them? Will they relate to it? Because it is clear that using an analogy or a metaphor that is meaningful to our audience is a way to make an idea more relatable. We make the unfamiliar familiar. And a wonderful example of this is a woman came up to me after a program and she wanted to start her own business. Now, she was the spokesperson for American Express. If you went on their website at that point, there was Jan Holman up in the corner dispensing financial advice. Or this is a very crowded market. How could she possibly create a business that was one of a kind instead of one of many? Well, I asked her one question. I said, what do you do when you're not working? She said, I play golf. I said, we're in business. So put a vertical line down the center, put golf on the left, and put like money management or accruing wealth on the right. Now start looking, your word, for the analogies, the parallels, the corollaries. write down all the words so you have a word bank for money management and for golf. Let's see, I mean, many people in golf, they try and hit the cover off the ball, right? Well, that's a parallel for like investing too fast and too big, right?
Ah,
And then your caddy is your financial manager. And we finally came up with a title for the book by doing this process of how we can make the familiar unfamiliar with a fresh metaphor that helps people see it with UIs. So, what's the title for the book? Go for the green.
oh, yeah, that's really good because it does. You've got that double meaning there of the green. That's very clever.
And of course, it needs to be commercially viable. We always need to ground it in our
Mhm.
strategic roles. So think about, who does she want as her ideal client? Well, probably executives and entrepreneurs and affluent people, etc. Now, here's the good news. At conferences, many times they have a golf tournament in up front, right?
Yeah.
So Jan now is giving like a half-hour presentation over lunch and then going out and playing golf with all of these decision makers. All are in a position to recommend her book, buy it for bulk sales, hire her for consulting. So do you see, she's
Genius.
Catherine Grahaming her career. Catherine
Yeah.
Graham said to do what you love and feel that it matters.
Yeah.
Well, could anything be more fun? So what do you love? What do you do well? How can it be a metaphor for a generic topic? And now you've made a generic topic genius, and you are doing work you love that you're good at, that is meaningful and fresh to your target audience in a way that makes you the go-to resource in a very crowded industry.
I love it. I love it. Well, Sam, one other thing that I want to touch on before our time runs out is, and I know this is one that Alan reminded me of just the other day, your did you know sequence. I think this is a great idea, especially either for, maybe the pre-show marketing or even for the booth staff to remember in the booth. So can you share that with us, please?
Absolutely. Now, to make this as applicable as possible, everyone, please be thinking of a situation coming up where you want to win buy-in. You want people to say yes to what it is you're proposing or pitching or recommending or requesting. So get in your mind this situation. It can be virtual, it can be in person, where you want to get a yes to whatever it is you're offering. All right, I tell you the story, then we're going to unpack it real quick so that you can use these 3 steps in the first 60 seconds of that contact for their eyebrows to go up and for them to be curious and want to know more, which means you just got what you cared about in their mental door. So here's the quick story. You may know that I was the pitch coach for Springboard Enterprises. They have helped women entrepreneurs generate more than $26 billion in funding. This is Robin Chase of Zipcar. This is Gail Goodman of Constant Contact. So one of my Springboard clients came to me, Springboard Enterprises, and her name was Kathleen Callender. She was with PharmaJet, and she said, Sam, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, well, what's the good news? She said, I'm speaking in front of a room full of investors at the Paley Center in New York. I said, that's fantastic news. What's the bad news? She said, I'm going at 2:00 in the afternoon and I only have 10 minutes. She said, Sam, you can't say anything in 10 minutes. How can I possibly explain our patent pending, our FDA clinical trials, our team credentials, our exit strategy? And I said, Kathleen, you don't have 10 minutes. You have 60 seconds. They will have heard 16 other presentations by the
Yeah.
time you speak. So here's the 60-second opening we came up with that not only helped her generate millions in funding, she and her daughter Heather, who run PharmaJet, were selected as Business Week's most promising social entrepreneur of that year.
Wow.
Ready? Here we go. 60 seconds. Did you know there are 1.8 billion vaccinations given every year? Did you know up to a third of them are given with reused needles?
Mm.
Did you know we're spreading and perpetuating the very diseases we're trying to prevent? Imagine if there were a painless, one-use needle for a fraction of the current cost. You don't have to imagine it. We've created it, and she's off and running. Are your eyebrows up, Marlis? Do you want to know more?
Definitely. Yes. Yes.
So here are the 3 steps. Now let's compare this. Do you know how she used to explain what PharmaJet did or open her presentations? By explaining that PharmaJet was a medical delivery device for subcutaneous inoculations. It's a what?
Snooze
It's a what?
fest.
See, look at my eyebrows.
Yeah,
When we're confused, we crunch up our eyebrows, and confused people don't say yes. We want the
exactly.
eyebrows to go up. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. Here's how we do it. 3 steps. Number 1, ask 3 did you know questions with surprising statistics about the problem you're solving, about the issue you're addressing, about the need you're meeting. What are 3 did you know questions with surprising statistics? And if you're thinking, Sam, how do I find these surprising statistics? You Google that stuff. If
Hmm.
we had time, Marlis, we have variety of people from around the country in all types of different industries. Just put into search, what are surprising statistics about blank, about this industry that you're working in, about this problem you're solving, about this need that you're meeting, this issue addressing. Up will come things even you don't know, and especially recent research, because recency equals relevancy. And
Right.
when you say, did you know this and this and this? And people are going, oh, I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know it cost that much. I didn't know it was affecting that many people. Step 1.
Hmm.
Step 2, use this word, imagine. Imagine pulls people out of their preoccupation because they're not distracted anymore. They are picturing your point. Link the word imagine to 3 benefits of your proposal, or 3 advantages of your product, or 3 bottom line results that will accrue to people if they hire this service or if they choose to work with you. Go back to Kathleen Callender. Put yourself in the mind of her decision makers. What are they thinking about? Well, they're probably thinking about those reused needles. So we
Yeah.
made it one use. They're probably thinking about painful inoculations. We made it painless. Most decision makers care about money. So we said a fraction of the current cost.
Hmm.
You see how in a world of infobesity, wah, 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 we distilled into one succinct sentence. Oh, who wouldn't want that? Second step, imagine this. People are thinking, sounds fantastic. Who wouldn't want
Exactly.
it?
Yeah.
Step 3, these words. You don't have to imagine it. We're doing it. Now you come in with your precedents and your evidence to show this isn't pie in the sky or speculative. This is a done deal. And here's your proof of concept. Here's a
Hmm.
testimonial. Here's the article in Forbes. Here's a respected industry leader who vouches for you. You do that in 60 seconds. And Jack Welch said, if you don't have a competitive edge, don't compete. I think if we don't have a competitive edge, we can't compete. And this gives you a competitive edge in the first 60 seconds because everyone is still infobesity explaining and the eyebrows are crunched up. You hit the ground running. You got the eyebrows up. They already know what a problem this is causing, how many people are being effective, how much it's cost. You've just helped them imagine a better scenario, and you and your team are in a position to deliver it. Boom. That's how you can win buy-in, or you can at least intrigue people in 60 seconds or less.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's such a great concept for a trade show booth staff because, if you create that intrigue like you said within the first 60 seconds, they're definitely going to want to spend more time in your booth. They're going to want to learn more. They're going to want to, do the hands-on demos or whatever, but you've got to capture that interest. And too many exhibit staff are just horrible at their approach and how they start that conversation in the booth because you do have a very limited time window that you've got to get people excited. So, Sam, thank you so much. We could go on all afternoon, I know, talking about all the wonderful strategies that you use. So, tell us how people can best get a hold of you. And we've got your links here we'll share as well.
Well, thank you. You can contact me directly if you'd like me to help train your team, or if you'd like some information about me speaking for your organization, at Sherry, Cheri, at intrigueagency.com. This is my sister. She's been running my business for more than 20 years. So Sherry would be glad to find out about your event and maybe how we can help contribute to make it a success. And you can also go to samhorn.com. My TEDx talk is there. I've always feature articles and quotes that are hopefully value added for you. And, to follow up on something you said, Marlis, Richard Branson said, time is the new money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think time is the new trust. And if we're training our staff and our teams on how to hit the ground running and deliver value and intrigue people quickly, it is one of the quickest ways to earn trust from our clients and our customers, because they trust that we are always going to not waste their time and deliver value that they can use.
That is so true. And Sam, you definitely did not waste anybody's time today. You packed so much wonderful information into this 20 plus minutes. So, Amanda says, thank you. Great stuff. Savannah says, loved it. So fantastic. Sam, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you taking time out to join us here today in virtual lunch. And we hope we can have you back again in the future.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Hope people found it inspiring and useful.
And intriguing.
And intriguing.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We will be back again. We're doing it this year. We're just doing virtual lunch on the 4th Tuesday of every month. So we will be back at the end of February with another great topic. And until then, go out and have a great time building those brand new, intriguing marketing messages and just making your shows great this year. We'll see you in February. Bye.